Jeanne d'Arc, also known as the Saint of Orleans and Joan of Arc, is a ruler class servant based off the Catholic saint who helped liberate Orleans during the Hundred Years' War. Due to the chaos of the Great Holy Grail War, with 14 servants participating and the continued existence of the previous ruler, Amakusa Shiro, Jeanne d'Arc was summoned by the Grail. Her role was to preside over the war and maintain balance over the two sides pitted against each other, acting as safeguard to the Grail and intervening to prevent catastrophic consequences from occurring. Appearance-wise, Jeanne had pure amethyst-colored eyes and long straw blonde hair tied in a braid with a blue ribbon. During the Great Holy Grail War, she possessed the body of a willing French girl named Letitia, whose appearance and magical energy were compatible with her, looking almost identical. On her back, Jeanne bore 28 command seals, 2 for each servant during the war to command them. In battle, Jeanne manifests her iconic battle dress with armor made of magical energy and always carried her battle banner. Jeanne is portrayed as a reserved and composed servant. Her personality merges with her host Letitia. She has no personal desire for the Grail, but insists the war must be conducted honorably without endangering the world. Jeanne had unwavering faith in God, believing her purpose was to carry out his will, regardless of any hardships she or her allies faced. She prioritizes order and justice, ready to fight for the rules, but fundamentally values all people. Jeanne d'Arc, born a peasant in Dorime, claimed God's command to fight for humanity, and left her humble life in the small French village to join the 100 Years' War. She inspired many, helping lift the siege of Orleans and earning King Charles VII's praise. Eventually, Jeanne was executed for heresy by her enemies, yet she accepted her fate as part of God's plan. In Fate Apocrypha, Jeanne d'Arc, though historically a flag-bearer who never fought in a battle, demonstrates formidable combat abilities against powerful servants. She can hold her own in prolonged fights against powerful servants like Karna and Atalanta. As part of the ruler class of servants, Jeanne obtains access to numerous powerful skills, first of which being extraordinary magic resistance. She has a level of magic resistance so high she is able to withstand magic even from the age of the gods. But this magic resistance is not magic nullification. She is merely averting the magecraft from herself, meaning her surroundings will still be damaged. To pair with that, she has a skill called True Name Discernment, which allows her to gain information such as the true name and skills of a servant. Lastly, she also has a skill called God's Resolution, giving her 2 command spells that can be used for each servant in the war that she can use to rule over them. Jeanne also has a unique ability called Revelation, which is unique to her. It allows her to intuitively navigate through all matters related to achieving a goal, for instance, finding the most suitable path while traveling. Jeanne wields powerful noble phantasms, such as the Luminosité Éternelle, which converts her magic resistance into near impermeable defense, and La Pucelle, a devastating flame-based reality marble attack that embodies her martyrdom. In exchange for her life, she can annihilate anything in existence. Mordred Pendragon, also known as the Knight of Treachery and the Rebel of the Round Table, was a saber-class servant of Kairi Sisigo for the Red faction. She is based on the legendary figure, Mordred, the rebellious offspring of King Arthur, known for leading the revolt against the Round Table and challenging Arthur's reign. In Fate Apocrypha, Mordred is a homunculus clone of Artoria Pendragon, sharing her light figure and green eyes with blonde hair tied in a ponytail. To conceal her figure, she wears a bulky red armor with a retractable horned helmet called the Secret of Pedigree, which is a noble phantasm that hides her identity and details while it is worn. Outside of combat, she is seen wearing black boots, short jean shorts, a tube top, and a crimson leather jacket. Mordred is fiercely arrogant, believing herself equal or superior to her father. She sees her rejection to the throne not as a question of worthiness. Her sole wish from the Holy Grail is to have the chance to pull the sword of selection herself and prove her right to the throne. Despite her youthful appearance, she is brutal in nature, relishing combat with an intensity that borders on berserker-like. Mordred's view of humanity is conflicted. She both envies and despises them, seeing them as selfish, deceitful, and fickle. She sees humans as undeserving of protection, including her own followers, who mistakenly believed her rebellion was for their sake. To Mordred, her actions were self-serving, and she is frustrated by comparisons that cast her as the foil to Arthur's idealism. Mordred is the secret child of Artoria Pendragon and Morgan Le Fay, created through magecraft and born as a homunculus-like being with accelerated growth. Though female, she was raised as the hidden son and potential heir to King Arthur. Gifted with unmatched swordsmanship, Mordred quickly earned a place among the Knights of the Round Table, striving to live as the ideal knight while secretly yearning for her father's recognition. However, when Artoria refused to acknowledge her as her heir, Mordred's devotion turned into a rebellion. She became the figurehead of Camelot's uprising and ultimately faced Artoria at Camlan. During their battle, Mordred asked the king if he had hated him, to where Artoria replied by saying he did not possess the capacity of being a king. Eventually both perished, Mordred by sacred spear and Artoria by final cursed strike from Clarent. Mordred, a saber-class servant, boasts exceptional strength and skill, with all parameters above average. She fights fiercely and instinctively, favoring effectiveness over form, willing to use any means necessary for victory, be it punching, kicking, or wielding her oversized sword single-handedly, or even throwing it to defeat foes. Her armor provides incredibly strong defense, capable of withstanding powerful attacks with minimal injury. Being of the saber class, Mordred possesses the riding skill, allowing her to operate most vehicles with above-average skill. Her riding skill was used to drive Kyrie's car and even operate a plane. Additionally, as Saber, she has some innate magic resistance, making it difficult for her to be affected by spells. Thanks to the skill, she received no damage from Jack the Ripper's mist. Mordred's personal skills include her mana burst, which allows her to infuse body and weapons with magical energy, greatly enhancing her strength and speed. This ability allows her to move at near supersonic speeds and deliver powerful strikes. Removing her noble phantasm helmet, the secret of pedigree, lets her release more mana and perform attacks like Crimson Lightning, where she unleashes all her mana stored in her sword to use as an attack or summon her armor. She also has this ability called Instinct, which allows her to have visual and auditory distractions, allowing her to feel the optimal course of action when fighting, helping her to dodge and parry attacks. Mordred wields Clarent, a noble phantasm sword symbolizing royal authority that boosts the wielder's physical power and charisma. Though she never gained recognition as king and thus lacked its full benefits as a sword, she channels her hatred towards her father through Mana Burst to unleash Clarent Blood Arthur, a powerful noble phantasm attack capable of cutting down most foes in a single strike, overwhelming them. Siegfried, also known as the Dragon Slayer or Dragon-Blooded Knight, is the saber-class servant of Gord's music the millennia of the Black Faction. He is based on the hero from the German legend Nibelungenlied, famous for slaying the dragon Fafnir and gaining near invulnerability from its blood. Siegfried is a tall and slender man with long unkempt silver gray hair and greenish gray eyes. His exposed skin is tanned brown from being soaked in dragon blood, which is composed of dragon scales that make him nearly invulnerable to blades and spells, except for a single vulnerable spot on his back. He wears a black bodysuit marked with red lines, covered by armor plating on his arms, legs, and shoulders, and carries the greatsword Balmung on his back. Siegfried is a stoic, speaking only when necessary, and perfectly willing to obey orders from his cowardly master. Siegfried also seems to like the excitement of battle, and values facing worthy opponents. In life, he was utterly selfless, dedicating his life to aiding others without expectation. Believing he could protect his loved ones from pain, he willingly sacrifices himself. Even though Siegfried loved humanity, he always felt a deep emptiness from always living as the hero wished by others, rather than himself. During the Great Holy Grail War, he realized his true desire was to save someone by his own choice, not by obligation. Siegfried slew the dragon Fafnir with the holy sword Balmung. He married Princess Kriemhild of Burgundy and won many battles for the kingdom. He fought in every field of battle without a single defeat. Siegfried's generous nature is what led him to his downfall. To help his brother-in-law, the king of Burgundy, win Queen Brunhild of Iceland, Siegfried used deception, acting as his proxy, which sparked conflict between Kriemhild and Brunhild. Believing he caused a discord, Siegfried thought about resolving the situation with his own death, but was subsequently fatally betrayed by his closest friend, Hagen, who he trusted with his weak spot. He did not resist, and died tragically through assassination. Siegfried is famed for his unparalleled swordsmanship, being described as someone whose swordsmanship has long since surpassed mankind. Siegfried carries indomitable presence on the front lines, often defending his allies with relentless toughness, standing tall as a powerful wall. He relies on his overwhelming defensive capabilities from the armor of Fafnir to absorb blows, while looking for openings to unleash Balmung's devastating power. Like Mordred, he possesses the two unique saber class skills, riding and magic resistance. Balmung is Siegfried's massive two-handed noble phantasm sword, forged by the dwarf Albrich. When its true name is released, Balmung unleashes a wave of crimson light, charged with draconic mana. This attack manifests as a concentrated beam or a wide crescent arc of destructive energy, capable of tearing through defenses and leaving behind a devastating trail. The armor of Fafnir is the blessing Siegfried received from bathing in Fafnir's blood. This noble phantasm is always active, covering Siegfried's body with an invisible draconic protection. The armor grants him incredible physical defense, rendering him immune to almost all forms of attack. Minor injuries and even most magical assaults are negated. However, there's a single small spot on his back between his shoulders that the blood did not reach. This weak point is extremely vulnerable, and any attack striking it will bypass his defenses entirely, causing severe damage. This weakness is not easily visible or detectable by others, but Siegfried is aware of it. Achilles, also known as the Swift Hero, is the Rider of Red, based on the legendary warrior from ancient Greece who participated in the Trojan Wars. He's a servant of Kabik Pentel, yet he has never met him. Instead, someone under the alias Shiro Kotomine takes command of him, becoming his new master. Achilles is a striking hero with raptor-like eyes, spiky green hair, and a strong build. He wears silver armor, including a chest piece, pauldrons, gauntlet, and greaves, with an orange cloth loosely wrapped around him. Achilles is broad-minded, refusing to blindly obey authority, yet not openly rebelling either. He rejects orders he deems unworthy, defining himself by his personal ideal of hero. Disdainful of kings, he clashes with those who value political power like Semiramis, but regrets killing Penthesilea, making him hesitant against female foes. Achilles thrives in battle, exuding confidence and bloodlust so intense it breaks ordinary men's resolve. He mocks enemies even when outnumbered. To him, all foes are equal, mere opponents to be cut down. As a heroic spirit, his greatest wish is to face Hector, Chiron, and Penthesilea once more. Achilles is the son of the sea goddess, Thetis, and hero Peleus, and was blessed with near invincibility, except for his vulnerable heel. When Achilles was young, he was trained by the centaur Chiron, an old friend of Peleus, who was famed for raising many heroes. When the Trojan War broke out, Thetis faced Achilles with a choice between a long, obscure life or a short and glorious one, and he chose the latter, joining the war. During the Trojan War, he performed heroic feats with divine gifts, including a powerful spear and swift chariot. Driven by the death of his close friend, Patroclus, at Hector's hands, Achilles killed Hector, but desecrated his body, earning Apollo's wrath. Sometime later, he defeated the Amazon queen, Penthesilea, but was cursed by her. One day, Apollo sent Paris to shoot Achilles' weak spot, his heel, before having him fire as many arrows as he can at his heart. Despite being mortally wounded, Achilles continued to slaughter as many enemies as possible before his young death. Achilles was known as the fastest hero among all of humanity. His fighting style usually consists of a barrage of basic techniques, aiming to overwhelm his opponents with speed. Yet that does not limit him at all. He's able to adapt to his opponents and switch up his style to gain an advantage. Achilles' speed is so extraordinary, he can even detect magical energy and subtle air disturbances, allowing him to dodge attacks perfectly. Not to mention his skill with the spear is so great, he has no problem being summoned as a lancer as well. He's able to throw his spear fast enough to break the sound barrier, being near impossible to evade. But that's not all. Due to being trained by Chiron in the world's oldest martial art, pankration, Achilles is very skilled in unarmed combat, using punches and kicks to overtake his opponent with power and speed. During his final duel with Chiron, his final punch was stated to be equal to a noble phantasm in power. Being of the rider class, Achilles possesses the riding skill of a high caliber, more that than of saber, allowing him to mount creatures on the level of phantasmal beasts. But on the contrary, he has weaker magic resist, and cannot defend himself from higher level magecraft. Achilles is also known as the type to fight even when grievously wounded. Not knowing when to give up, he can continue fighting for a time even when his weak point is struck. Achilles is known to possess multiple noble phantasms at his disposal. Trioius Tragodia is a chariot pulled by 3 horses, including 2 divine steeds from Poseidon and a stolen great horse. It can break the sound barrier instantly, allowing Achilles to charge across the battlefield. Jomius Cometus is a continuously active noble phantasm embodying Achilles' legendary speed, enabling him to cross vast battlefields in a single breath and can close distances instantly. Its use requires exposing his vulnerable heel, however. Andreas Amarantos is Achilles' near immortality granted by the gods, his only weak point being his heel. Damaging there negates his immortality and significantly weakens him. Diatricon Aster Lonk, his spear that creates a separate duel arena, isolating the fight from outside interference, but it's usable only against worthy male opponents, willing to fight him one-on-one. And finally, the last noble phantasm he is known to possess is Achilles Cosmos, a shield forged by Hephaestus, forming a miniature world that blocks nearly any attack, from individual to divine scale. It can also be used offensively, by crushing foes with the enclosed world. Astolfo is the rider of black, servant of Salnike Aiskol Yigna Millennia, and later Sieg. Astolfo is based on one of the legendary French knights of Charlemagne, with the same name. Astolfo is often described as a cross-dressing male who enjoys cute feminine accessories. His attire includes black underclothes, resembling a dress with stockings, greaves, gauntlets, and hip guards detailed with red and gold, paired with a white and red cape, and black hair bows. His long pink hair is tied into a waist-length braid. Astolfo is an ever-optimistic, curious, and carefree servant, who is the type of servant to leave his master when not in combat, to go and indulge in the pleasures of the world. Unlike most servants, he prefers remaining in physical form for the joy it brings him. He is known as an unparalleled blabbermouth, that his chatter frequently drifts into awkwardness. He makes all hard decisions on impulse, allowing his heart to decide on the spot, such as choosing to help Sieg simply because he wanted to, and not knowing how far he will go. He carries no desire for the Holy Grail, and his motivation fluctuates based on whether or not he likes his master. Astolfo is one of the 12 paladins of Charlemagne, known as the son of English king and cousin to Roland. Among the paladins, he is said to be the most handsome, eternally optimistic, and lacking common sense. Legends describe him as a ladies' man, and famously weak. As an adventurer, he traveled widely, even reaching the moon, collecting mystic codes like his flute, grimoire, and golden lance. He rode various mounts, including a griffin, the famous Rabicano, and most famously, the legendary hippogriff, which is something described as inconceivable for this world. Although Astolfo is known for having many glorious tales, he's made just as many mistakes. He was often defeated in riding tournaments, and fell into numerous magical traps. Despite this, Astolfo never wavered, and did not view failure or defeat as true mistakes. Despite being known as weak among Charlemagne's 12 paladins, the many noble phantasms he has obtained during his adventure are extremely powerful, making him a viable asset for the war. If his noble phantasms weren't taken into account, he would just be a mediocre servant in terms of strength/skills. Astolfo is incredibly lucky, and most of the time, whatever he ends up doing ends up going smoothly. And unlike other servants, exposing his true name does not bring about any specific weaknesses. Astolfo's main weapons are a slender sword and chainmail. Though not a noble phantasm, his sword is sharper than ordinary weapons. He rarely uses it, and gave it to Sieg, who found the steel blade very heavy in his hands. Like Achilles as rider, Astolfo possesses riding at a very high level, and also a weak form of magic resist. However, thanks to one of his noble phantasms, he can greatly increase his magic resist, becoming immune to the attacks of modern magi. Astolfo possesses a skill that does more harm than good. It makes it so that it's impossible for him to keep secrets, causing him to chatter about allied weaknesses and true names, whilst also making him forgetful of important things. The second unique skill Astolfo carries is monstrous strength, which temporarily increases his strength, but damages him in return. He also has some sort of independent action that allows Astolfo to act independently from his master, even if the magic supply is severed. If he loses his master, he is able to stay for a period of 2 days. Astolfo's main source of strength comes from his noble phantasms, which include Hippogriff, a rare phantasmal beast resembling a griffin variant, with horse-like lower body and eagle-like upper body. Its charge produces tremendous damage, and it can temporarily enter an interdimensional rift, allowing it to phase through any attack. La Black Luna, a hunting horn that emits a terrifying blast, causing instinctive fear in flight. Those caught in its blast suffer explosive shock, and if the enemy is weak enough, they turn into dust. Casseur de Logistil is a magical book inherited from a witch. While it cannot cancel reality marbles outright, invoking its true name and reading its content can potentially do so. Karna, also known as the hero of charity or son of the sun god, was the Lancer-class servant of Fiend von Sembren of the Red faction before Shiro. Karna is a servant based on the legendary hero from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata. He is a young man with long white, almost translucent hair and a piercing steel-like gaze. A red stone in his chest glows with a captivating light. Most striking is the golden armor fused to him, radiating a divine brilliance. Karna is cold and unforgiving, but deeply loyal and thoughtful. He speaks plainly, exposing others' true nature, which often makes him disliked, but he's actually deep in thought, with a loyal heart. He is neither proud nor arrogant, and lives by a code to not bring dishonor to his father's name. He follows orders without question, valuing loyalty over personal judgment. He has no wish for the Holy Grail, yet he desires to battle Siegfried and to save his master. Karna, the son of the sun god Surya, was born to Kunti before her marriage to King Pandu. Using a magical mantra granted by a sage, Kunti summoned Surya, and Karna was born, with divine golden armor and earrings, symbolizing his invulnerability. Afraid of her future role as queen, Kunti abandoned Karna, leaving him to grow up unaware of his royal blood and raised in a lower social class. Despite his harsh upbringing, Karna was virtuous and determined to live honorably. Karna faced rejection and ridicule in his youth when challenging the Pandavas to prove his worth. Duryodhana rescued him, made him king and a loyal ally, fueling the rivalry between the Pandavas. In the Kurukshetra war, Karna fought fiercely for the Kauravas, despite losing his divine armor to Indra. After being struck by Arjuna, one of the 5 Pandava brothers, he faced death with honor and dignity. Karna stands as one of the mightiest servants. He confidently declares he could face both Siegfried and Jeanne d'Arc at once. Not from arrogance, but because he truly believes himself to be undefeatable. He's renowned for his agility and skill with his massive spear. His techniques could even overwhelm Siegfried's legendary swordsmanship. In their duel, Karna struck Siegfried dozens of times with tremendous blows, though many were negated by Fafnir's armor. But once Siegfried grew serious, the fight became evenly matched, yet their clash lasted hours, with neither gaining a lead. As Lancer, he possesses lower levels of magic resistance, with riding skills comparable to the Saber class. Karna can continuously channel his blazing magical flames into his weapons, which are essential to his fighting style and enabling devastating attacks capable of cutting through even the strongest defenses. Karna can also use the flames to propel himself, effectively granting him limited flight. At maximum power, Karna was able to slice through Balmung's massive wave by imbuing his spear with flames, burning anything in its path. Karna's discernment of the poor is an insight ability that lets him see through his opponent's true nature, making him immune to verbal deception and false excuses. Even Shiro avoided lying as much as possible to avoid this skill. Kavacha and Kundala is Karna's golden armor and earrings forged from the radiance of the sun. It serves as an indestructible defensive-based noble phantasm integrated into his body. This armor reduces all damage he receives to 1/10, allowing him to endure powerful attacks and heal from even severe wounds during combat. Vasavi Shakti is Karna's one-time use anti-divine spear, originally belonging to Indra, capable of killing gods. To wield it, Karna sacrifices his protective armor, transforming his spear into a weapon with overwhelming destructive power. Brahmastra is a noble phantasm that manifests as a projectile weapon. By invoking the name of the god Brahma, it pursues his enemies and hits surely. However, he cannot use this attack on opponents stronger than himself. Brahmastra Kundala is his enhanced form, empowered by Karna's flame mana. It raises its power to an exceptional level, comparable to that of a nuclear weapon. Vlad III, also known as Lord Impaler and Count Dracula, is the Lancer of Black, servant to Darnik Prieston Yig Millennia. Vlad dresses in all-black royal attire, his pale face and white hair heightening his ominous presence. His cold gaze instills helplessness, not fear of violence, but those exposed to his gaze feels helplessly weak and powerless. Vlad appears dangerous, but is modest and considerate, his bluntness giving the impression that he's detached. His true wish is to restore his honor by erasing the false legend of Count Dracula. Despite being a servant, he acts as sort of the leader for the Black faction, commanding from a throne. He regrets lacking great captains in his life, and now treasures his heroic allies, especially Siegfried and Castor's golems, wishing they stood by him in the past. In life, Vlad III, known as Lord Impaler, was Walachia's greatest hero, famed for repelling Ottoman invasions. Though he was was the inspiration for the vampire Count Dracula. He was a devoted human leader and not a vampire. His life was marked by tragedy. His father was murdered, his brother buried alive, and he fought against his own siblings to protect his nation. Vlad ruled with brutal justice, executing about 1/5 of his people to purge his enemies from within. He employed ruthless war tactics, including guerrilla warfare and scorched earth strategies, famously leaving mountains of impaled Ottoman soldiers as physiological warfare. He was once captured by Hungary and imprisoned for 12 years on suspicion of being a collaborator to the Turks. During this time, his legend was defamed into that of a bloodthirsty vampire. Upon release, he died in battle against the Turks in 1476 at age 45. No spirit has greater fame than Vlad III within Romania, and while he is within this country, he gains a boost in strength, bringing his form close to his prime in life. He is known as one of the strongest trump cards for Black, and amidst overwhelming pressure. His skill, Demonic Defender of the State, allows Vlad to mark a region as his own personal dominion prior to a battle. Within this domain, Vlad III attains combat power comparable to a berserker, allowing Vlad to display an advantage even when faced off against powerful opponents such as Achilles. Kazikli Bey is Vlad III's primary noble phantasm, manifesting up to 20,000 stakes within a 1-kilometer radius that erupt from the ground to impale enemies. His stakes gradually cover the battlefield, making evasion harder over time, while their ominous presence exerts a curse-like physiological pressure that induces fear and anxiety. Although each stake is low and not highly destructive, their overwhelming numbers are what makes them a threat. With this, Vlad was able to fight evenly against Karna and Atalanta. However, due to Karna's unique power, he burnt through thousands of stakes with his flames, but any other lancer other than Karna would have been overwhelmed. The legend of Dracula is Vlad III's second noble phantasm, embodying his vampiric form known worldwide. This form greatly amplifies his strength, speed, and regeneration, enough to withstand devastating attacks from Karna and Achilles. Vlad can create and throw stakes from his body at supersonic speeds, with noble phantasm level power. Though his thought process weakens, his physical power surpasses his sovereign form. In exchange for this boost, his other skills and noble phantasms are sealed. Vlad's relentless assaults in this form forced even multiple top-tier servants to fight him without hesitation. They had to stall for time until dawn, in which Vlad's powers would drop sharply. Atalanta, also known as the chaste huntress from Greek mythology, is the Archer of Red, servant of Rotwile Brzezinski before Shiro. Atalanta is a huntress, dressed in vivid green, with cold sharp eyes that hold a beastly glint. Her long hair is unkempt and lacks the silkiness typical of nobility. Her appearance includes animal ears and a tail linked to a legendary curse, which surprisingly she embraces. These features were not present during her time sailing on the ship Argo. Atalanta often speaks in an old-fashioned manner and cares deeply for abandoned children due to her own harsh upbringing. She wishes to create a world where all children are loved and will assertively cooperate with their master to achieve this by the Holy Grail. Atalanta is stubborn and a harsh realist, showing no mercy to the weak, except to the children, who she protects fiercely. She has no regrets. She has a distrust of men that stems from witnessing Greek warriors' violence, but she respects Peleus, who treated her humbly. She interacted with him during the Argonauts' journey alongside his son Achilles. Atalanta shows no reaction to Achilles' romantic advances, having grown indifferent to such things in the world, though they share a mutual bond of understanding and often communicate silently. Born to King Iasus of Arcadia, Atalanta was abandoned as an infant, but saved and raised by a sacred bear sent by the goddess Artemis. She later was adopted by hunters and developed into a peerless huntress. There are 3 tales that Atalanta is famous for, first of which being her association with the Argonauts, an assembly of brave heroes from all over Greece. She once proudly claimed to be the fastest human alive, and after joining the Argos, she met Meleager, a hero captivated by her skills. Atalanta's second tale she's most famous for is the time she drew first blood on the monstrous Chaldean boar sent by Artemis to punish King Oeneus. Though Meleager finished the beast, he awarded Atalanta the boar's prize out of respect. This caused outrage among the male hunters, who claimed superiority by the fact Atalanta was a female, leading to deadly conflict and a tragic curse on Meleager. Upon returning home, Atalanta's father demanded she marry. To avoid this, she imposed a deadly foot race. Any suitor must outrun her or face death. She defeated many suitors until Hippomenes, aided by Aphrodite's golden apples that distracted Atalanta. He won the race and her hand. Though victorious, this forced her to break the vow of chastity, and she was later said to be transformed into a lion as punishment. Ultimately, none of Atalanta's tales ended happily, and especially after the third, her distrust of men grew immensely strong. Her weapon, the celestial bow, Tauropolos, bow of heaven, blessed by Artemis, allows her to shoot supersonic arrows with supreme precision. By drawing this bow to its max, it is capable of devastating attacks, such as piercing Siegfried's armor and sending him flying. Whilst being so far away, no one could detect her. She's renowned for her speed, unmatched even by those empowered with mana. Atalanta is more animal than human, possessing extraordinary senses far superior to others. She can detect enemies with her keen sense of smell, and has such exceptional eyesight that she can pinpoint targets from extreme distances, and even in near total darkness. Atalanta can also move freely, jumping over any obstacle in her way, including enemies. Being of the archer class grants her an ability to act even away from her master. However, she still needs her master if she wants to unleash noble phantasms, which require immense magical energy. Atalanta's main noble phantasm is the Phobius Catastrophe, an anti-army attack where she prays to Artemis and Apollo to unleash a devastating rain of arrows over a chosen area, striking multiple enemies with precision. She also has the cursed noble phantasm, Agria's Metamorphosis, which grants her the power of the Caledonian boar's pelt, boosting her physical abilities immensely, even to the point where she could close the gap and bite off Jean d'Arc's shoulder before she could react. Additionally, it allows for flight and magical arrow attacks, with power comparable to noble phantasms. However, Agria's Metamorphosis seals her main bow, Tauropolos, and causes her to lose reason, making it difficult to control. Chiron, also known as the Archer of Black and the Great Sage of Centaurs, is a servant of Fiore Forovage Yggdrasilia of the Black faction. He is based off the Centaur sage from Greek mythology. He appears as a calm-looking, gentle man, dressed in archaic leather armor. Though a centaur, he assumes a fully human form when summoned as a servant, to avoid revealing his rare identity. Chiron is noble, caring, and courteous, respected for his wisdom as a teacher of many Greek heroes, including Achilles and Heracles. He is entrusted with leadership roles for his honesty and strategic insight. Chiron balances strictness and kindness, particularly in mentoring Sieg and maintaining discipline within him. He shares a deep bond with Achilles, happy to have met his pupil again. Their trust remains strong despite the conflict they are within. Chiron forms a close and comforting bond with his master Fiore, encouraging her despite her hardships being handicapped. His wish for the Holy Grail is simple. He desires to regain the immortality he passed to Prometheus, not for power, but as a symbolic connection to his forgotten parents and identity. Chiron is a centaur, half man, half horse, famed in Greek mythology as a great sage and wise mentor. He is the son of the Titan Kronos and the deity Pylra, making him a divine spirit who surpassed his beastly nature through the teachings from gods like Apollo and Artemis. He's known for his mastery in medicine, music, prophecy, and hunting. He trained numerous famous heroes, including Heracles, Jason, Castor, Asclepius, and Achilles. Despite his immortality, he was mortally wounded by Heracles' poisoned arrow. Wanting to end his suffering, he relinquished his immortality to Zeus, who passed it along to Prometheus. Zeus honored Chiron by placing him among the stars in the Sagittarius constellation. To conceal his true name, Chiron appears in human form as a servant, though this lowered some of his parameters after giving up immortality. Even with reduced attributes, Chiron's archery skill remains unmatched, earning him recognition as a first-rate servant, comparable to Vlad III and Siegfried, with mana reserves and combat ability far beyond ordinary heroes. His archery skills rival the gods themselves. His bowmanship is flawless, with each arrow shot by him akin to a shooting star, with skills surpassing that of Atalanta. Chiron is always calm and strategic, able to exploit even the tiniest of openings unnoticed by others. His composure during battle is so strong that he rarely shows fear or surprise, earning command of the front lines from Vlad III. He skillfully saved allies from Siegfried and Frankenstein, and later served as an acting commander, organizing formations with Astolfo. One of Chiron's special attacks, Ferocity is the Hammer of the Gods, fires 3 arrows simultaneously, each charged with magical energy. This powerful volley could kill Atalanta instantly. His speed, however, could not match Atalanta's when she fled. Chiron can also fight in close combat, mastering ancient pancration, blending boxing and wrestling techniques. He used his unarmed combat skills against Mordred, who overcame his arrows with armor and mana burst to close distance. During the falling fight, Chiron exuded a judo-like throw, slamming Mordred and incapacitating her momentarily. Chiron has this ability called Mind's Eye. It allows him to understand the ability of his opponent and the situation of the predicament one is in. And through combat, logic, and he's also able to figure out a way to get out of such a situation. He also has clairvoyance, which allows his eyes to capture far off targets. This skill, combined with Mind's Eye, allows for limited future sight. Chiron also possesses a skill called Wisdom of Divine Gift, which grants him proficiency in various things. He can quickly diagnose conditions by observing vital signs, such as when he examined Sieg to determine his health and lifespan. During combat, he also demonstrated a skill, similar to Assassin's Presence Concealment, to hide his presence from enemies. Chiron's trump card is his Noble Phantasm, Antares Snipe, a sniping attack that fires a shining star. It features tracking abilities, and does not require the release of his true name or charging with magical energy to activate. Despite its high rank, Antares Snipe raw attack power is not exceptionally strong, so Chiron aims to secure one-shot kills whenever he uses it. In a battle with Mordred, he refrained from using this Noble Phantasm, because he could not find any vulnerabilities in her armor, and feared she might escape after the attack. Additionally, and since Antares Snipe can only be used once per day, Chiron uses it cautiously to avoid fighting without his Noble Phantasm afterward. Semiramis, also known as the Wise Queen of Assyria and the world's oldest poisoner, is the assassin-class servant of Shiro of the Red faction. Semiramis is often described as someone who is depraved and peerlessly beautiful. She is wrapped in a midnight-like black dress that emanates a pleasant aroma. Semiramis has pointy, elf-like ears and very long floor-length blackish-brown hair. On her hair, she has dove-themed ornaments that relate to her 7 ascensions. Semiramis is an enthusiastic and decadent human who indulges in luxury and carries a captivating presence. As queen, she believes rulers must be superior and possess more desires than ordinary people, viewing tyranny as intrinsic to kingship. She can be playful when in control, but is quick to anger when plans get thrown out the window. Unlike typical assassins, Semiramis carries out murders through calculated manipulation rather than secrecy. Semiramis was born of the Syrian mermaid goddess Durketo and a human man. Abandoned by her mother, she was nurtured by a dove and later raised by a shepherd named Seamus. She married Onis, an old general, but was taken in by King Ninus, who fell in love with her simply because of her beauty. Onis committed suicide, and Semiramis became queen after marrying Ninus. Shortly after, she poisoned him and ruled Assyria as regent for decades. As the oldest poisoner, Semiramis uses poison for combat, and uniquely, she actually has the traits and abilities of both assassin and caster thanks to her double summon skill. Having lived through the Age of Gods, she's knowledgeable about magecraft and does justice to her history as a witch, able to recreate the Greek Hydra's venom. Semiramis' main armaments are chains that form wedge-shaped magic circles which she can use to attack her foes. Semiramis can also summon magical beasts. As a form of defense, she can form the scales of sacred fish on her hand to protect herself or others. She was able to block Clarent Blood Arthur, though it broke shortly afterward. As an assassin, she carries a skill called Presence Concealment. However, this skill is not really as potent compared to other assassins, as the concealment drops just before attacking. But this does not apply when poisoning something, as she was able to easily slip a hypnotic drug into the tea of all of Red Faction's members, allowing Shiro to take the opportunity and manipulate them. To pair with that, Semiramis can also use doves as familiars. Directed by thought alone, she could spread them throughout the entirety of Romania to carry messages and collect information, and also track targets. Semiramis' most powerful noble phantasm is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, a massive aerial fortress. Activation requires a specific amount of soil and stone, along with a ritual lasting at least 3 days. While inside the gardens, all of Semiramis' parameters and abilities increase. Conversely, the Hanging Gardens grant Semiramis near absolute power and authority, comparable to that of a ruler-class servant. It has formidable defense, including magical beam attacks akin to true magic, capable of devastating damage that even high magic resistance can't nullify. Semiramis also has a secondary noble phantasm called Sikira Asum, which could only be used within the Hanging Gardens. It imbues her magecraft with a poison attribute, affecting both the environment and her attacks. Jack the Ripper is the Assassin of Black, originally summoned by Hyoma Sagara until Rekka Rikudo became her master soon after. Jack the Ripper appears as a white-haired girl with green-yellow eyes and stitched scars on her face. She wears a black vest, stockings, and pink shoes, with bandages on both her arms, and a glove on her left hand. Purple oval marks are present on her shoulders, and she carries knives sheathed at her lower back. In her earlier appearances, she wore a tattered coat as a cloak over her outfit. Jack's personality blends innocence balanced with cruelty, childlike in speech but quick and rational. Killing to her is as simple as picking a flower. She refers to herself in plural pronouns and mourns the unloved voices of the streets. Her ultimate wish is to return to the warmth of her mother's womb, which drives her murders. She demands motherly love from her master, showing deep attachment to compatible figures like Reika Rikudo, while being ruthless to others. Despite her harsh nature, she shows childlike joy in small comforts occasionally. Jack the Ripper was a legendary serial killer, represented as a collection of wraiths, born from the aborted children of the Whitechapel prostitutes. This amalgamation lacks a single identity, making her immortal unless the entire collection is dispersed. She created from unborn children. She kills prostitutes to return to the womb. Though given the name Jack the Ripper, she herself is uncertain about her true identity. Her murders target not individuals but the society that condemned her and others like her. Eventually, a magus discovered her magical nature and extinguished her, but she remains a mystery among England's dark past. Jack the Ripper is armed with multiple knives and scalpels. She can throw up to 8 simultaneously. As a collection of wraiths, she can possess children to act as soldiers or hostages. If her heart is pierced, the wraiths release and trap victims in an illusion of Whitechapel based on their memories. Jack sustains her magical energy by killing and consuming souls, especially favoring evil ones. She can identify a person's gender by smell, bypassing disguise, including the secret of pedigree. As an assassin, her key class skill, presence concealment, is strong, allowing for amazing stealth, which also enables perfect surprise attacks. Jack's noble phantasms include Maria the Ripper, which is a phantasm that reenacts her murders under specific conditions, which are night, mist, and it being a female opponent. And if that is met, she can inflict fatal dismemberment. She also has a noble phantasm called the Mist, a sulfuric acid fog that decreases enemy agility and disorients targets. The Mist mimics London's industrial era smog and is constantly active, making escape nearly impossible without magecraft or high instinct. Amakusa Shiro Tokisada was the ruler class servant for the Eisvern Master during the Third Holy Grail War. Having taken on the alias Shiro Kotomine, he is the master of the Assassin of Red and serves as another overseer for the war. He later contracts with the rest of the Red servants, except for Mordred. In life, he was a teenage leader of the Shimabara Rebellion. Shiro appears as a tanned youth, with silver white hair and dark golden eyes. His hair turned white as compensation for his forced incarnation, and his skin bronze after 20 years in the Middle East. He wears red priestly vestments with a golden cross and carries a youthful boyish face, despite being over 70, all thanks to his left hand, Xanadu Matrix. His body is marked with scars, and he bears 2 command spells on his chest, similar to Kirei Kotomine. Amakusa Shiro Tokisada appears benign with an innocent smile, but he is a calculating manipulator, willing to destroy anyone to realize his ambition. He once hated humanity, viewing humans as self-consuming and valuing life as worthless. Yet he later accepted his flaws to seek salvation for humanity. He maintains cautious relationships, bonding only with those who share his worldview. That is to create a perfect world where all evil is eliminated and everyone is happy. In the past, Shiro was known as a miraculous figure and was considered a saint by the Christian peasants of Japan. He performed acts like healing wounds and walking on water. Despite his young age, he became a symbol of hope for oppressed Christians facing heavy taxation and persecution under the Matsukura clan. Shiro, originally a natural but subconscious user of magecraft, led a large-scale uprising that initially gained victories, but ultimately was crushed by the Tokugawa shogunate using starvation tactics. The rebellion ended with the fall of Hara Castle, where thousands, including Shiro, were killed or captured. Before his execution, Shiro expressed regret over the lives lost and prayed for a pure, happy world. Eventually, Amakusa Shiro Tokisada was summoned as a ruler-class servant by the Eisvern family during the Third Holy Grail War, meant to serve as an impartial authority, meant to regulate the war as a ruler-class servant. After forcefully incarnating a physical body after the war, he spent decades researching ley lines and catalysts, eventually joining the Great Holy Grail War as a mediator and master of the Red faction. He quickly summoned Semiramis as his servant, and gained control over several servants through manipulation, desiring to use the Grail for himself to wish for world peace. Shiro would normally be a weak third-rate servant, without the ruler class advantage. More of a spellcaster than a typical magus, Shiro excels in using black keys, conceptual weapons of the church, that are powerful enough to purify even dead apostles. He demonstrates skill in throwing multiple black keys abilities simultaneously and wields the enchanted sword, Mike Tenta Mitsuyo. Though his swordsmanship is average, like John, he possesses all the ruler-specific skills, like magic resistance and true name discernment. His noble phantasms are left hand, Xanadu Matrix, which grants him divine blessing and enhanced battle ability, right hand, Evil Eater, with precognition and combat prowess, and the combined twin arm, Big Crunch, which unleashes destructive pseudo-dark matter. Avisbron, known as the Caster of Black, is a caster class servant of Rosh Frayne Yigde Millennia. He also becomes the proxy master of Berserker of Red after capturing him. He's based on Salon Ibn Gabirol. Avisbron wears a featureless mask, without openings for eyes or mouth, a full body suit, and a blue mantle, making it impossible to discern any emotion or fear from his expression. Avisbron is a strategian, pessimistic, and a quiet magus, speaking only when addressed to. He specialized in creating golems, aiming to complete his noble phantasm, Golem Keter Malakuth. Despite poor health and a gloomy demeanor, he is ruthless in pursuing his goal, showing little emotion, and often avoiding social contact. Avisbron's abilities center exclusively on golem creation. Being weak to fighting himself, he can produce up to 30 golems per day, including many different types, such as a horse, dragonfly, spider, and humanoid forms. He can give instant commands to multiple golems, able to control one golem per finger. Avisbron's noble phantasm, Golem Keter Malkuth, is a massive autonomous golem modeled after the primordial human Adam, designed to lead the world towards paradise by continuously transforming it. The golem requires a living mage core for activation and strength, and it draws energy from the earth to grow, doubling in size roughly every hour. As long as it remains grounded, it cannot be destroyed. It functions as an autonomous reality marble, repainting the world to bring it closer to Eden. William Shakespeare is the caster of Red. He is based on the real-life famous poet and playwright. Shakespeare acts in a dramatic and exaggerated way, whilst also being gentlemanly and soft. He values the importance of the story above all else, willing to lie, cheat, and employ deception to witness the unfolding of a grand tale. Rather than involving himself as a participant, he shows fascination mainly with extraordinary protagonists, while dismissing ordinary humans. William Shakespeare, born in 1564, was an English playwright, poet, and actor from Stratford upon Avon, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language. Starting his career in London, he wrote about 37 plays and 154 sonnets, ranging from comedies to tragedies like Hamlet and Macbeth. Although William Shakespeare is a caster class servant, he has almost no direct combat ability or traditional magecraft. Shakespeare's fame spread across the world, and the illusion created by the theatrical troupe are a form of magecraft. Though incapable of dealing damage, Shakespeare can create illusions that cause chaos and confusion, but don't directly deal damage. His main strength lies in supporting and empowering his master, especially if the master has a strong character. The more of a character that his master is, the more his writing excels, or so he says. In other words, strengthening his master and having him fight as an assassin is Shakespeare's style of fighting. Shakespeare's noble phantasm, First Folio, is a theater-themed ability that physiologically attacks opponents by reenacting deeply traumatic scenes from their past, exposing their regrets and inner pain. It casts all the targets as characters in a dark play, breaking their spirit through ruthless narration and illusions. While it does no physical damage, it could leave their opponents defenseless and vulnerable. The only way to overcome this is to have a clean conscience, with no regrets, or to confront one's trauma head-on. Spartacus is known as the Berserker of Red, being forced to contract with Avisbron when being captured by the Black faction. He is known as the strongest gladiator and the ringleader who raised a rebellion of slaves in ancient Rome. He is enormous and muscular, standing over 2 meters tall, with pale, scarred skin, reflecting his intense combat history. His body is tightly wrapped in leather straps that coil around him and his face. Despite his fierce and intimidating appearance, he maintains a composed, smiling expression even during combat, giving him an inhuman appearance. His mind is wholly focused on rebellion, making him difficult to control or understand. He smiles constantly in battle, embodying madness. Spartacus does not seek the Holy Grail. His only desire is to continue fighting for equality and freedom, even at the cost of suffering and death. In the past, Spartacus was captured and enslaved by the Romans. He escaped with around 70 fellow gladiators and built a large army of escaped slaves, defeating several Roman forces. Spartacus fought at the front lines, and it became a symbol of rebellion and hope for the oppressed. His revolt was ultimately crushed by Roman generals, and Spartacus died in battle. Despite his defeat, he remains a legendary figure, representing resistance against oppression. Spartacus wields a gladius, using raw power and grappling techniques rather than refined skill, often overpowering enemies with powerful strikes and throws. As a berserker, his madness enhancement ability elevates his already formidable strength, but leaves him uncontrollable and fixed on his objective, resistant to commands. His personal skill includes rapid injury healing and an unyielding will that refuses to surrender to pain or despair. Spartacus's noble phantasm, crying warmonger, converts damage taken into magical energy to heal and strengthen him, making prolonged battles favorable to him and allowing him to unleash devastating counterattacks. Frankenstein is the Berserker of Black, and servant to Karl's Vorvige Yggdrasilania. Frankenstein appears as a young girl, dressed in a white bridal-like gown, with long red hair that often covers her eyes. Her eyes are distinctively heterochromatic, with one golden and one silver gray. She has an artificial cyborg-like body, marked with joint lines and cables instead of blood vessels. Her giant mace contrasts her delicate appearance, combining strength with innocence. Despite being a berserker, she shows high thinking ability and simple communication through gestures and tones, conveying a shy and sincere personality. She prefers material form and enjoys peaceful activities like picking flowers, and is also mindful of conserving electricity. Frankenstein is an artificial life created by Victor Frankenstein. Intended as a perfect woman, she was built from patchwork flesh and animated by lightning, but was deemed a failure due to her infantile mind and lack of morality. After being disassembled and abandoned, she managed to reassemble herself and develop emotions and a sense of self. Seeking companionship and understanding of love, she relentlessly pursued Victor Frankenstein, but he continuously refused, causing her deep despair. Ultimately, Victor fled and died, and Frankenstein ended her own life by fire, fulfilling her tragic existence, born from her creator's delusions. Frankenstein's unique skill, galvanism, allows her to absorb and convert magical energy and bioelectricity to rapidly heal and strengthen herself. She has a terrifying shrill shout that can incapacitate enemies by causing panic and breathlessness. Her noble phantasms include Bridal Crest, a giant electric mace that continuously absorbs and uses magical energy, and Blasted Tree, a powerful lightning-based area attack that causes massive destruction but can kill her in the process.